let's be honest right now. We're facing significant challenges to healthcare right across the country. Access to family doctors and nurse practitioners is not what it needs to be.
If you or a loved one have navigated the health system lately, that might be considered an understatement. Long waits, big frustration, a crisis in care. Tonight, a new lifeline. Good evening. Is money aimed at easing the strain for a system on the brink?
An agreement between the provincial and federal governments worth billions. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
They're the next generation of nurses, badly needed on the front line of the healthcare system.
And let's be honest right now. We're facing significant challenges to healthcare right across the country.
With long wait times in hospital emergency rooms, difficulty pinning down a primary care physician, the federal and provincial governments have agreed on a $3.1 billion package to help.
Increase access to primary care, reduce wait times for surgeries and for seeing specialists, hire more healthcare workers, ensure people have access to the mental health care they need, and improve healthcare for Indigenous peoples.
This deal has been in the works for about a year. 700 spots in medical programs are being added, a tenth of them earmarked for the North. It may take a while for the cash to translate to shorter lines in hospital. The Premier says emergency rooms need more doctors, but that a quarter of patients should be looking for care elsewhere.
Someone might come in with need some stitches or a sore throat, and I've heard these stories. But it's our job to make sure that they get the support they need.
As part of this deal, Ontario has already announced an expansion of family health teams to fill that primary care gap. And there's a commitment here to modernizing record keeping and communication, the end of the fax machine in hospitals era. We're in the patient's room. Federal money is also expected to help accredit healthcare workers who've trained outside Canada.
The PM's going there. I'm not going there.
The health minister concedes there's lots of work to do on this front.
As internationally educated and trained clinicians move to Ontario, move to Canada, that we remove the barriers for permanent residency so that they can start practicing quickly.
Healthcare workers welcome this cash infusion.
Is it enough? It will never be enough. Is it a good beginning? Is it a step in the right direction? Absolutely it is.
But there's frustration over a lack of space.
The answer to emergency department wait times are increased inpatient acute care beds and places for those people to go when it's ready to be discharged from the hospital.
Long-term care, home care. The Premier says Ontario is building.
And I always say, no matter where you are in Ontario, you're either getting an expansion or a new hospital close by.
But for some, those beds aren't being added quickly enough. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Straight ahead, charting a new course on King Street, the revised plan to improve traffic flow in the downtown core. But first, have you been outside today? Hardly feels like February, does it?
Mild is putting it lightly. What about record-breaking? And people are taking full advantage in what should be the dead of winter. CTV's Mike Walker is live with more. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan here at Woodbine Beach this afternoon. People were happy to ditch the parka and gloves and embrace this unseasonably warm weather as temperatures reached a new record high, smashing a previous record that was set 86 years ago. It's not exactly beach weather, but along the boardwalk, people are soaking up every minute of this balmy weather.
Oh, I'm loving it. It's double digits in February. You can't go wrong.
This is the warmest February 9th on record. At 11 degrees, Toronto surpassed the previous record of 10.6 degrees. That was set back in 1938.
I do not recall a February 9th, and I've had a few winters. It's kind of nice. No snow. I have only shoveled once, so yeah, it's been a pretty unique time.
Temperatures continued to soar this afternoon, with Pearson Airport reporting a high of 15 degrees. Many happily ditching their winter gear.
It's really nice. I decided to take a run because it was nice and warm, which I haven't been able to do for a while because it's been so cold.
Some even enjoying the sand and water between their toes.
We went a little bit in the water. It's so freezing out there, but, just to make us feel better.
It's almost like false spring. I mean, these are temperatures that you'd normally see at the end of April, not, days before Valentine's Day.
But Environment Canada's senior climatologist Dave Phillips warns this is only a tease.
Our forecast is saying that we're going to see over the next month more seasonable temperatures. So maybe a return to kind of temperatures below freezing even during the daytime, and more snow.
So from the shores of Lake Ontario to the trails, people enjoying every ounce of this unusual and record-setting warmth.
We're making use of it. We're out on our bikes today. So this is like unheard of, but we'll take it.
Because it's only a matter of time before this returns.
Well, the rodent said it was going to be in early spring, so how long can it be? We haven't had it yet, so we almost deserve it.
After all, it's only February. Now, Dave Phillips says Toronto typically sees about a third of its total snowfall for the season after February 9th, so something to keep in mind. But with that being said, double-digit temperatures are in the forecast for tomorrow, so continue to embrace it while you can. Reporting live at Woodbine Beach, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Today is one for the record books. It's still mild this hour, probably very comfortable for Mike out there. Partly cloudy, but before we get into your evening conditions, let's actually take a look at some of the records broken right across our region. Look at Windsor hitting 16.2 degrees today, breaking that 12.2 record. Hamilton, 15.6 degrees, breaking the record of 11.3. Toronto, 10.6 was the one to beat, set back in 1938, and we smashed it at Pearson with a temperature of 15.1 degrees. London, Burlington, Goderich, Parry Sound, they all broke records. And look at the temperature at this hour, 14 degrees in the city of Toronto, 13 in Hamilton, 13 in Niagara Falls. If we take a look at the satellite radar, there is a 30% chance, potential for a little sprinkle here and there, but really today was sunny, not a washout at all, comfortable, beautiful conditions. And Mike said it there, we could very well, it's looking like we will break a record tomorrow, but then we do cool down. We'll break it all down for you a little later in the newscast.
Coming up, counting down to kickoff in Las Vegas, one of the biggest sporting events of the world, reaching new heights this year. The Super Bowl is about more than just football. The buzz from Sin City a little later.
There is some promising news for downtown drivers tonight.
New data showing changes on King Street are having a positive impact on traffic. CTV's Janice Golding is live with more. Janice.
Nathan, after complaints emerged about traffic slowdowns along the King Street right-of-way, the City of Toronto is trumpeting the success of a new enforcement program. Even though it's been years since the King Street Priority Corridor was launched, the unique rules of the road along the streetcar right-of-way can still confound some motorists.
It's green light that we are going. Okay, so we got ticketed for this. I don't think it's fair.
People blocking and traveling through intersections and making prohibited left turns.
You'll get the few who will, play it off like, they weren't aware of it.
To combat the problem and travel times that were actually 3 minutes longer than before the right-of-way was created, the city installed traffic agents at 6 key intersections along King in December.
My God, can you imagine the frustration you feel being stuck in that traffic in the streetcar? And you're watching all the people walking past you.
And the city says the program, which operates during the rush hours, has been a huge success. Without traffic agents, it was taking anywhere from 45 to 65 minutes to travel from Bathurst to Jarvis. When agents are present, it takes 17 to 21 minutes.
I am announcing today that traffic agents on King Street make the traffic flow 3 times faster.
While the mayor is heralding the program a success, rider reaction is mixed. Have you noticed an improvement?
No, it still seems very slow.
It is faster, I would say.
The streetcars are usually packed with people, and there's not enough of them coming around.
City officials say, however, more improvements are in the works.
Our next steps include signal design updates, timing changes, so that all road users better understand the important flow along King Street.
Having those permanent signals and better messaging is going to go a long way, I think.
Hoping to allay more confusion and frustration and get traffic on King back on track. The city couldn't cite the cost of the new program today, telling CTV News only that the 12 enforcement agents were making $45 an hour. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Janice. And speaking of transit, subway service will once again be disrupted all weekend at several downtown stations. Trains will not be running on Line 1 between St. George and St. Andrew as crews carry out track work. Shuttle buses won't operate either. The TTC says riders can take the Spadina streetcar and other service routes on Line 1 on the young side.
In Liberty Village, the investigation continues into a shooting yesterday evening. Officers were called to a condo building near Strawn and Wellington just before 5 p.m. They found a man in the lobby with apparent gunshot wounds. He was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the shooting itself likely took place on the building's 7th floor. The suspect remains at large. And in Ajax, Durham Regional Police are investigating a shooting that took place last night. It happened around 9:20 near Ivors Court and Westney Road North, just south of Rosslyn Road West. Police found a 25-year-old man with serious injuries. He was taken to hospital as police searched the area for suspects. They say they're looking for 2 men who ran off.
Toronto police have made another arrest in connection with a pro-Palestinian demonstration inside the Eaton Centre last year. On December 17th, investigators say protesters blocked the entrance to a store and became physical with police. It's alleged an officer was hit with an umbrella and demonstrators made threats toward another person. 19-year-old Amro Abu Farik was arrested last month on charges including unlawful assembly and assault police officer. A second man arrested that day had charges against him dropped. Today, 31-year-old Ahmed Abu Farik was taken into custody on similar charges.
There are lots of ways to celebrate getting your full driver's license, but York Regional Police are sharing a recent example of what not to do.
Okay, so sir, obviously I stopped you for speeding.
I have no excuses.
131 and a 50. So with
that speed was enough to lay stunt driving charges. The driver then reveals he'd only gotten his Class G license 10 minutes prior to this very traffic stop, which saw his license suspended and his dad's car impounded. York police say they laid 118 stunt driving charges across the region last month.
Ontario's appeal court is set to release its ruling on the province's controversial Bill 124 next week. The 2019 law capped salary increases for public sector workers to 1% a year for 3 years. Labor groups and unions representing hundreds of thousands of employees challenged the law. In late 2022, the Ontario Superior Court found it infringed on collective bargaining rights, striking it down as unconstitutional. The government appealed the case in June.
The Supreme Court has ruled Indigenous governments can write their own laws about how to deliver child and family services. CTV's Judy Trin now on the details of the decision and what it means for the process of truth and reconciliation.
A ceremony to mark a victory in the highest court in the country. In a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court of Canada upheld the federal government's Indigenous Child Welfare Act as constitutionally valid and that it protects the well-being of Indigenous children, youth and families by promoting the delivery of culturally appropriate services. But it was a bittersweet victory.
It is also, in a way, a sad day that the well-being and the future of these children has been an issue debated before the courts for the past 4 years and beyond.
Bill C-92 was passed in 2019 as part of Canada's commitments after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to correct the wrongs of residential schools and the 60s scoop. Children were forced into state care. The problem persists today. The national census shows that more than half the children in foster care are Indigenous.
And this means now we can continue to work with all provinces and territories as we move forward on making sure Indigenous communities, First Nations, Métis and Inuit get to take care of their own kids and give them the brightest possible future.
Quebec opposed the bill, arguing that by giving First Nations, Inuit and Métis control over child welfare services, it would encroach on provincial rights. That challenge has been struck down.
Following today's decision, provincial governments and even the federal government no longer have any reason to abstain or discredit the legitimacy and competency of our governments.
Indigenous groups say they will use this Supreme Court decision as the basis to fight for self-governance in other areas beyond child welfare. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Palestinian officials say Israeli airstrikes in central Gaza and Rafah killed nearly 24 people overnight. More than half of the territory's 2.3 million people have fled to the southern city. Today, Israel's prime minister said he's ordered the military to draw up plans to evacuate the population before an expected invasion. Israel says Rafah is the last remaining Hamas stronghold. But a plan to invade a packed city on Egypt's border has sparked international criticism. The UN says it would be catastrophic.
Unprecedented density of Rafah's population make it nearly impossible to protect civilians in the event of ground attacks. OCHA says the congestion in Rafah has reached a point where normal routes are blocked by tents set up by families seeking any flat, clean surface available.
The UN says it does not want to see a forced mass displacement of people from Rafah. An estimated 1.5 million people are sheltering there. Officials warn that a move on the city and surrounding area could also cause the collapse of Gaza's humanitarian system.
In Iceland, that big volcanic eruption appears to have ended. It began yesterday, spewing lava 80 meters high from a 3-kilometer crack in the earth. But by midday today, there were no signs of activity at the site, and volcanic tremor is no longer being detected on seismic sensors. Still, the eruption damaged roads and pipelines and cut hot water to parts of the peninsula during freezing temperatures. It was the third eruption in the area since December.
Prince Harry is vowing to continue his mission to rein in the British media. Today, he accepted costs and damages from a tabloid publisher that invaded his privacy.
Everything we said was happening at Mirror Group was in fact happening, and indeed far worse, as the court ruled in its extremely damaging judgment. As the judge has said only this morning, we have uncovered and proved the shockingly dishonest way in which the Mirror acted for so many years and then sought to conceal the truth.
Mirror Group Newspapers has agreed to pay all of the prince's legal costs, plus substantial damages. It will make an interim payment of just over $500,000 within 14 days. The final tab will be assessed later. The settlement avoids new trials related to over 115 more tabloid articles Harry says resulted from hacking or other intrusions.
A group of international space tourists is back on Earth tonight following the journey of a lifetime.
Confirmation that the second set of 6 hooks is open.
Astronauts from Turkey, Italy, and Sweden departed the space station after a 3-week visit. The crew returned in a SpaceX capsule that parachuted into the Atlantic off the Florida coast today. The trio were accompanied by a retired NASA astronaut who now works for Axiom Space. It is the Houston company that arranged the chartered flight. Each country paid about $55 million each.
Back on Earth, Hanoi has welcomed the new Lunar New Year with a colorful fireworks display that lit up the night sky. The Lunar New Year, known as Tet in Vietnam, is a major festival celebrated in several Asian countries. It's also widely marked by diaspora communities around the world. It begins with the first new moon of the lunar calendar and ends 15 days later on the first full moon. The dates vary slightly each year, falling between late January and mid-February.
Here at home, it looks like the price of stamps is going up. Individually, they would cost $1.15 for a domestic letter. That's up about 8 cents. Stamps purchased in a booklet, coil, or pane would cost 99 cents each. U.S. and international rates would also be affected. So would domestic registered mail. Canada Post says it is facing considerable financial pressure due to inflation and because there are fewer letters to deliver. The price increases are subject to regulatory approval. They would take effect May 6th.
Finally, it's home sweet home for the Toronto Raptors. The team is back at Scotiabank Arena tonight after a 6-game road trip.
1:32 to go. Quickly attacking. Doesn't go. Pirtle on the offensive glass.
Toronto went 2-4 on the trip and welcomes the Houston Rockets tonight. It'll be the first game since a couple of new acquisitions. But center Kelly Olynyk and guard Ochai Agbaji are questionable for tonight. Former Raptors star Fred VanVleet is out with a strained thigh muscle.
To baseball, and the Toronto Blue Jays have finalized a $32 million contract for Yariel Rodriguez. The 26-year-old Cuban pitcher has signed on for 5 years. He went 6-2 with a 1.15 ERA during relief appearances for a team in Japan's Central League in 2022. Rodriguez also played for Japan in last year's World Baseball Classic.
We're now less than 48 hours to one of the biggest sporting spectacles on the planet. The countdown is on to Super Bowl 58. The Kansas City Chiefs are looking to move into dynasty territory with a third Lombardi trophy in the past 5 years. Standing in their way are the San Francisco 49ers, who've been favored in every game they've played this season. TSN football insider Cara Wagland is in Las Vegas, where the excitement is hitting a fever pitch.
Vegas has been built for this. It's the first time hosting Super Bowl. It's certainly not going to be the last time. I expect them to be added to the regular rotation of host cities for Super Bowls now, but they got a brand new stadium. The Strip is just bumping. People have started to really file in over the last, I'd say, 24 hours. It's starting to get really busy here. This is my third Super Bowl now, and this is the most hype and kind of buzz I've seen around a city so far leading up to the big game on Sunday. It's been pretty awesome. We're at this point just like, let's get to Sunday. Here we go. We're ready. Let's see some football.
San Francisco will be looking to avenge its loss to the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54. You can catch all the action starting at 6 p.m. Sunday on CTV and TSN. Both are divisions of Bell Media.
Back here at home, students at J.R. Wilcox Community School were treated to an assortment of activities today.
All in celebration of Black History Month. Here's CTV's Beth McDonnell.
Teaching drum beats from Nigeria, there is pride.
It's good because I get to show them my culture and they can learn a bit more about what it's like being a Black kid.
It's hard.
Activities for students to experience at J.R. Wilcox Community School's Black Joy event, celebrating Black excellence.
Because it's good to celebrate about how Black people have their success and just history in general.
The sounds of steel drums also filling the air. This brother and sister playing side by side.
It's really nice because it's not only that we're remembering what happened about the bad stuff and slavery and stuff, but also the significance in what other people were saying and how they helped to contribute to it.
There's positive literature and coloring in all about 12 different stations, ranging from games to learning about local Black celebrities. There are projects displayed on model Winnie Harlow and rapper Drake, others on flags and fashion.
I love looking around at the sections and how they like to celebrate this wonderful event.
Warm food and drinks, key ingredients at the gathering.
Back in our tradition where a visitor comes to your house, this is how you greet them, and you have the bread and then the coffee. It's amazing because I've been here since 2014, and it was only me and my kids who are Eritrean or East African. But now we have a lot of diverse people coming in. Serving out food to from my country, which is Jamaica, the Caribbean food is really helpful because they get to taste different types of food.
It's really fun, and you're celebrating Black excellence, and the food is really, really good.
The hope at Black Joy is for all kids to feel they belong.
We're trying to change the narrative and perspective from oppression to anti-oppression.
A space where everyone thrives together. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Holding businesses accountable. CTV's W5 uses hidden cameras to reveal how customers are really being treated and expose companies that rack up the most complaints.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up, it's Feedback Friday. More viewers tell us they've been caught in long-term expensive rental contracts. Beware of surveys on social media that claim you can win prizes. And is your auto insurance due? You could be getting hit with a major increase. Feedback Friday is just ahead.
Mostly cloudy, 13 degrees this hour, just a few degrees off our peak temperature of more than 15 today, which is record-breaking. And heading into a big weekend, there's a lot to like weather-wise. Tomorrow, we welcome the Lunar New Year. It's the year of the dragon, and the forecast for the first day of the festivities is as follows. 6 degrees at 9 a.m., some sunshine in the mix, 12 p.m., 10 degrees and some sun. It cools down to 9 by 6 p.m. We will cool down even further for the latter half of the weekend. We'll break it down for you after this short break. Due to auto theft, inflation, and the cost of car repairs, you could see an increase on your insurance when your premiums come due.
We've also had new complaints about online prize scams and more people who've been caught in long-term rental contracts. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. We interviewed a senior who says she was talked into renting a water softener and HEPA filter because she thought she would save money. But the contract over time would have cost her almost $40,000. Following a knock on her door, Helen Hadwin was told if she installed a water softener and HEPA filter, she would receive government rebates and save money. She says she was never told how much it would cost and was shocked when she received the contract.
And I read how much it was, and I just about had a heart attack.
The $18,000 agreement plus interest would come to almost $40,000 over the life of the deal. CTV helped Hadwin out of the contract, but Joy wrote, "My 86-year-old father has a 20-year loan for $45,000 for equipment he didn't want or need. It's been devastating for our entire family." Social media sites may offer contests, surveys, and lotteries that claim you can win a prize, but you need to be careful entering your personal and financial information. Ganesh told us, "I did an online survey to win Tupperware in a lottery. There was a $7 fee, but when I gave my credit card number, I was charged $203 US." The grandparent scam continues to be a huge problem for many families. Scammers will contact seniors and pretend to be a grandchild in trouble.
I had this real sinking feeling that, it was a scam.
Lorraine told us, "I just lost $9,000 to the grandparent scam. We have now initiated a family password to prevent it from happening again." A new report by Rates.ca found that Ontario auto insurance premiums, which are already the highest in the country, are going up again. Ontario's regulator approved increases for more than 24 insurance companies. They blame inflation, auto theft, and the high costs of repairs. Ian wrote, "I received an auto insurance increase of 25%, despite no accidents, claims, or change of vehicle. What is with that?" And it's not just car insurance. We're hearing from viewers saying their home insurance premiums are also going up. Companies are blaming inflation, higher construction costs, and paying out losses due to storms and wildfires. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca. Heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
All right, to the forecast. Some people were wearing shorts and T-shirts today. We saw some convertibles with the top down. It felt like mid-spring, didn't it?
Pat said he saw someone on a motorcycle. I mean, this is February. It's supposed to be very cold. And, some people are concerned, especially people who are concerned about climate change, that we're smashing an 86-year-old record. But you did hear Environment Canada's senior climatologist Dave Phillips say earlier that we are going to return to more seasonable February weather. So for those of you who love winter, it is not over yet. But let's talk about the warmth, because we still have another day of it and an evening. Look at this, 13 degrees in Toronto this hour, 14 in Windsor, cooler up in Trenton and Ottawa, 5 in Muskoka. Here's a peek at the radar. So there is a 30% chance, could see some wet weather in parts of the region, but really just a cloudy evening. If we go forward and look at how the radar is going to move forward in the hours ahead. So early morning hours, this is around 3:30. There is the potential you could see a shower, but that is going to move out. And then for the remainder of the weekend, you can see throughout Saturday and into Sunday, we're dealing with cloudy conditions and pops of sunshine, which is very nice for all your plans. Tonight's lows, so still cool, down to 3 degrees, but the norm is -9. Hamilton down to 4. And if we move forward to look at tomorrow's high, so here's where the potential for record-breaking weather comes for yet another day. Anticipating a high of 11 degrees, maybe 12 in Toronto. The norm is -2, by the way. The record set back in 1965 on February 10th was 10.6 degrees. So it's looking like we could have a second day of record-breaking weather. Here is how your 7-day forecast plays out. So we have the potential very early morning showers. You wouldn't notice it anyways for tomorrow. A high of 11 degrees anticipated. Sunday, it cools down considerably. So the high 3 degrees is what we're expecting, and some sunshine and cloud. And also Saturday night, overnight into Sunday, it'll be cool with the wind chill as well. So definitely want to dress for winter then. Monday, looking like we could get some more sun, that high of 3 degrees. There is the potential for some flurries. Remember them on Tuesday with a high of only 1 degree. Valentine's Day brings the potential for flurries, and we'll be sitting at the freezing mark for our high. And it looks like the trend could continue later into next week as well. So we will return to wintry weather, but we still have another warm day for tomorrow.
Also tonight, putting the beer and wine tax on ice. The province is planning to extend the freeze on alcohol fees and promote more competition. We have the details.
It's often easy to file a customer complaint when a company doesn't live up to expectations, but that doesn't mean those businesses will necessarily clean up their acts. This weekend on W5, the team deploys hidden cameras and other tools to hold them accountable.
He's pulling back the same panel you did.
Yep. He's opening now the control board compartment, which is absolutely unnecessary.
You didn't even touch this panel.
No, that's where the control board is located.
So he's been to that back panel twice. He's now had 2 opportunities to see the simple problem with the fridge. Is it possible that a qualified technician could have missed it?
No, no way.
In collaboration with W5, CTV Toronto's own John Woodward takes a deep dive on companies racking up customer complaints across the country, from repair services to airlines and more. And John joins us in studio with the full details on his W5 report. It's titled Customer Disservice. John, we've all experienced frustrating behavior, unfortunately, from companies. How did you decide which companies to focus on?
Yeah, every customer has a story. And so we thought, how can we do this? And the answer was data, right? You go to the Better Business Bureau, that's a big national watchdog that has records of every single customer complaint they get, and we tumbled their numbers and we looked at which companies rose to the top, or I guess the bottom, right? The bottom of the numbers, and that created a list, and that's how we sorted through it. And it was a real wide variety, right? It was credit card counseling agencies, airlines, appliance repair, that video you just saw, as well as some gift basket companies. And our task was to see what's the common thread. Like, how is it that they are not only able to behave the way they are, but that they can seem to keep doing it again and again and again in an unresolved way.
So what kind of behaviors are we talking about?
So the one that really sticks in my head, I think it's actually heartbreaking, is a woman in Southern Ontario whose husband died. She gets given a bunch of frozen food to get her through this grief, this time, right? And that's when her fridge breaks. So she needs to fix it. Her husband isn't around to help. She turns to an online search engine, and the top of the list is this company that she thinks is completely reputable, hires them, and then within a very short time, she's getting pressured for $1,000 plus deposits. The guy, according to her, never actually fixed the fridge, and then getting the money back was just a runaround. So she's unable to get that money, and so she's the kind of person who files that complaint. And we took that and ran with it. She's not able to set up the hidden cameras, right? But we are able to go. We built a whole setup in this house, multiple cameras, invited that repairman in, and the setup was a fridge that was completely functional, according to a reputable repairman. Wow. Just a single thing wrong with it. A little zip tie, actually, in the wrong place. And watching to see what he does with it, how he turns that little tiny problem into a very expensive solution. I mean, I hope people watch that and either recognize it or go, I know what to do when I see that kind of behavior.
It's so satisfying to watch you to investigate these types of people. I imagine it wasn't very easy. What was the process like?
So the problem is a lot of these companies don't want to necessarily advertise where they are, who they are. So you got to do a lot of shoe leather journalism to figure it out. You got to check the documents. You got to be creative, essentially. And we had like a dream team, I would say, of people who were doing this. We had Bill Fortier in Edmonton. We had Melanie Nagy in Vancouver. And overseeing it all was capable producers Kevin O'Keefe and Caitlin Taylor, going through the documents, figuring out where they are. And once you do that, then you get to what I think is one of the most climactic moments in this documentary is we drive up to Markham, where this otherwise nondescript building is, knock on the door. I don't know what really to expect, but I definitely did not think what we got. I mean, it was drama. They pounced on us within seconds of being there, and it's just yelling, it's explosions, it was really something.
Wow.
You got to see it.
Great team, great work, and looking forward to watching it. Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
And you can tune in for John's full report, Customer Disservice, tomorrow night at 7 on W5, right here on CTV.
If you've been underwhelmed by the movies on offer at the box office so far this year, turns out you're not alone. Analytics company ComScore shared new findings with The Hollywood Reporter. Domestic box office revenue for 2024, which includes the U.S. and Canada, has only totaled around $580 million U.S. so far. That is 43% below the pre-pandemic average for comparable dates. Analysts place much of the blame on production delays caused by last year's Hollywood strikes. And while Hollywood is trying to recover from the impact of both the writer's strike and the actor's strike last year, another potential labor threat to production is on the horizon. IATSE is a union representing thousands of film and TV crew, among others, across the U.S. and Canada. They're set to enter contract negotiations with studios next month. The union has set July 31st as a deadline for a deal or a potential strike vote.
Colin Jost has been named the featured entertainer for this year's White House Correspondents' Dinner. The comedian is known for anchoring Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update. Organizers say Jost will have the chance to turn up the heat on the national news media and prominent political figures at the annual event. The White House press corps, as well as the President and First Lady and others, traditionally attend the dinner, which is set for April.
The production company behind The Crown is sharing the results of a props auction.
Okay, so our job is to try and create the world that the actors can sort of inhabit. We try and make that whole environment feel believable, I suppose.
Everything from the royal characters' costumes to the furniture and dishes to set pieces like the recreated gates of Buckingham Palace went under the hammer. The 473 items sold raised more than $2 million for film and TV apprenticeships.
Bloomberg estimates Taylor Swift's sold-out world tour officially made her a billionaire. And now we're learning more about one way she's cashing in. This week, Swift announced her Eras Tour concert film will make its streaming debut on March 15th. Puck News reports Disney Plus paid $75 million U.S. to secure those rights, outbidding Netflix and Universal Pictures.
Still ahead, a 23-foot model of the Eiffel Tower is now unmatched. The ruling from the Guinness Book of World Records.
While we're pleased with the progress, we know there's more work to do, a lot of work to do, actually.
Updating our top stories, the federal and provincial government have agreed on a $3.1 billion funding package to help shore up Ontario's struggling healthcare system. That money will go towards a range of challenges, including soaring ER wait times and gaps in primary care.
My God, can you imagine the frustration you feel being stuck in that traffic in the streetcar?
The city says traffic agents posted along the King Street priority corridor are helping curb long delays during rush hour. Officials also say clearer signage will be installed so drivers know left turns and travel through intersections are prohibited.
I'm loving it. It's double digits in February. You can't go wrong.
And residents were out today enjoying the record high temperatures. The temps beat the previous high of 10.6 seen on this date in 1938. Environment Canada says the warmer weather may be pleasant, but a return to below freezing is on the way in the coming weeks.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you ever have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
In business, signs of strength in the labor market could mean an interest rate cut in Canada may be further away than borrowers and investors hoped. With more, here is Andrew Bell from B&M Bloomberg.
Hello there. More economic forecasters now think it will be summer instead of this spring before the Bank of Canada cuts interest rates. That's after Canada's job market posted the biggest gains in 4 months. The unemployment rate fell to 5.7% in January, the first decline since the end of 2022. Desjardins economist Royce Mendes says, quote, the employment data suggests that June is now more likely for the first Bank of Canada rate cut. He added, however, that layoffs at major companies suggest the economy is set for a, quote, bumpy ride. Now, U.S. stocks closed above 5,000 for the first time today, setting a new record. But let's check in on the other markets. The Canadian dollar was at 74.29 US cents, down a fraction. WTI oil, the North American benchmark, was at $76.77, up 58 cents. Western Canadian Select, our latest fix on that, is $56.55 for Alberta's benchmark oil, up $1.70. And the TSX Composite ended at 21,009.6, up just under 90 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
An industry group for home builders is pushing for a change to mortgage rules to help more Canadians get into the real estate market. The Canadian Home Builders Association wants Ottawa to offer 30-year amortizations on insured mortgages for new homes, up from the current 25-year period. Industry experts have said mortgage rule changes won't help address the core issues behind a shortage in housing. The federal government says it's working on a housing plan set for release in the coming months.
One day after BCE laid off thousands of employees, including many journalists here at CTV News, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he's furious at the company.
This is a garbage decision by a corporation that should know better. We have seen over the past years journalistic outlets, radio stations, small community newspapers bought up by corporate entities who then lay off journalists, change the offering, the quality of offering to people. And then when people don't watch as much or engage as much, the corporate entity says, oh, see, they're not profitable anymore. We're going to sell them off. This is the erosion, not just of journalism, of quality local journalism, at a time where people need it more than ever, given misinformation and disinformation, but it's eroding our very democracy.
Yesterday, Heritage Minister Pascal Saint-Onge accused Bell of breaking a promise to invest in news after it was granted $40 million in federal relief. Bell, which is the parent company of CTV News, blamed the cuts in part on the current regulatory and public policy environment.
As it considers an offer to go public, Indigo Books and Music says it's facing some economic headwinds. The book retailer says it earned $10 million in the quarter ending December 30th. That's down from $34 million in the same period the year before. Earnings are also down as consumers showed increasing price sensitivity. Indigo blamed the results in part on disruptions throughout the year, including a ransomware attack that hampered online sales. CEO Heather Reisman said the company's working on turning things around.
Meanwhile, today, pipeline company Enbridge said it saw a profit of $1.73 billion in its first quarter. That's compared with a loss of more than $1 billion in the last 3 months of 2022. It's expecting a slight financial boost this year as the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion sees its opening delayed, sending more demand to Enbridge's mainline network. Enbridge said last month it was laying off 650 staff. The province says it's once again stopping a scheduled beer tax increase. This latest one was set to take effect in March.
At a time, as you said, when things are a little, cost of everything's up, a little bit of relief goes a long way.
The estimated 4.6% hike to the basic beer tax and LCBO markup rates has now been frozen until 2026. The Ford government says the move will support the hospitality and alcohol sectors. The province plans to expand alcohol sales to convenience stores and other retailers that same year.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Tonight's Super Bowl ads look to score big with viewers.
We've got humor, which I love. Another big trend is nostalgia.
The brand Blitz adding excitement to the big game. That story and more later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hey y'all to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Hi, Toronto. I'm Teddy Wilson.
And I'm Nicole Cervinas. Welcome to Things to Know TO.
Each week, this show shines a spotlight on a wide variety of local businesses, services, events, and initiatives from across the greater Toronto area.
These companies are part of what makes Toronto one of the world's most vibrant cities and a great place to live, work, and play.
Join us every week on Saturday mornings for Things to Know TO.
And don't forget to visit our website, thingstoknowto.ca, to check out all of our great content.
A Frenchman spent 8 long years working on this one-of-a-kind matchstick model.
So imagine his relief when informed it's a record-breaking feat after being told earlier there's a problem.
We're happy to be able to admit that we were a little bit too harsh on the type of matches needed in this attempt, and Richard's attempt truly is officially amazing.
That's right. The Guinness Book of World Records initially rejected the model of the Eiffel Tower because Richard Plod used matches with the sulfur tops cut off. Apparently, that's against the rules. But after some discussion, Guinness officials acknowledged that they'd been a bit heavy-handed and decided to recognize the towering achievement. So it's going into the books for tallest matchstick structure. That's good to hear.
Impressive.
And this warm trend continuing tonight and tomorrow.
This is a great evening to be outside. Let's look at the temperature right now. It is 13 degrees in Toronto, 12 Hamilton, 13 in London, 14 in Windsor. Hey, the Super Bowl's on Sunday. Here's your forecast. Not in Vegas, but here in Toronto. Maybe you're heading to a party at 3 p.m. 3 degrees, a bit of sun, cools down for kickoff to 2, and it'll be cold when you leave the festivities, so keep that in mind. Tomorrow, 11 degrees we're expecting for the high. Could break a record there. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we start to cool down. More seasonable trend. Could see flurries Tuesday and Wednesday for Valentine's Day. Perfect for snuggling up to your loved one, Nathan.
Good to know.
That's it for us, but be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great weekend.